Welcome back to the Intentional Parents Podcast. It is the most wonderful time of the year, and it is the most stressful time of the year.
That reminds me of the song, right? For some of us, it's the most wonderful time. But for others, it might be, it's the most stressful time of the year.
I love it. For some, they're cringing right now. But Merry Christmas. This is our Christmas episode. Let's all say it together. 1, 2, 3.
Merry Christmas.
From Intentional. And today we want to cover 5 things, an acronym, peace, and how you can hopefully have some peace during the holiday season. Now, peace does not mean perfection. Peace does not mean that everything's going to be just easy peasy and that you will not experience potential dynamics familially, which you are not desiring. But what it does mean is that we have an invitation from Jesus and the Spirit to actually step into some really beautiful things. Mm-hmm. I have to say it. If you can give us a Christmas present, here's what that Christmas present would be. To rate, subscribe, and literally leave a comment of how this has helped you. And again, we say this every week, and it's because it truly helps get the word out in such a deep way. And recently we have some fun interviews coming up. I just want to let everyone know that we have some fun interviews. But in the Spotify community, on YouTube, you can follow along there and subscribe. And then here, please, Apple Podcast, that would be super helpful. And then also want to let you know, if you are listening to this past the holiday season, this is something that will apply to your everyday life and relationships. So this isn't about the holiday season as much as it's about how we actually work through relationships. So the acronym peace, we're going to get into that. But for us, it's Christmas. We're about to spend Christmas together. This year, Comer Christmas is in Los Angeles, which is a big deal. And we have decided to make the terrible decision and drive there instead of fly.
Because of like 1,000 miles or something.
We've chosen to make the financially responsible decision.
Oh my goodness.
Not the peaceful decision.
Yeah. And also, wait, this is on the same note though. Somebody from San Diego, the crew, what was her name? Mariah? I can't remember. Somebody sent me a hat.
Oh yeah.
I'm at the stage now where people have been sending me hats, and I have to tell you, that is very kind. And I just have to say thank you to Rye City in San Diego. They made some merch and they sent it to me, by the way. So I'm just,
that was a deep squirrel.
You're going to need a room for your hats pretty soon.
Yeah,
just
well,
a wall, at least a wall.
Well, you don't have hair. Anyway, but I want to say, well, it was LA. It wasn't too much of a rabbit trail. LA,
okay.
San Diego.
In your mind, it was
in
linear.
the South. Anyway, Comer Christmas, we're going to be celebrating that. We're really excited, but we're all going to be down in, actually celebrating with John Mark and the crew down there this year. Yeah. They got us to come to Warmth for the holiday season.
We are not driving. We are flying, God willing.
You're smart.
You've made a wise decision.
We just a couple weeks ago looked up flights to just confirm that it was astronomically expensive. $4,000
to fly 6 people to LA.
6 people on an hour-and-a-half flight.
Yep.
So we're driving. We're driving.
Well, yeah, I think that's one of the things we decided to do. We just said, kids, would you like to fly as a Christmas present, or would you like? I mean, what would you prefer? Would you like to open a car ride, or But that's our situation. But on a serious note, I know for this time of the year, for many people, even for our crew, I would say that we do our best. But I mean, we have our own dynamics even within our family. So if you're hearing like Comer Christmas, they must have it so great, and they're not. There's no tension and there's no dynamics. Not true at all. We're all humans and we all have dynamics as well. So don't let that lie seep in. We all have these dynamics. But this is unfortunately kind of a really challenging time for people. I kind of want to just talk about that really quick before we get into this acronym and break down PEACE of like, how do we actually move through this? And before we kind of run through those 5, let's take just a few moments to talk about some of the challenges and where this kind of comes from.
Yeah, I think there's layers of challenges, right? Like I first think of just with our own kids, especially when they're younger, maybe not as much as they're older, but when they're younger, it just feels like this time of year is like, it's so exciting. And the countdown till Christmas and the making the Christmas list and all of that is so exciting to young kids. But it's also really dysregulating for some of them. Where that anticipation, I think of our sweet birdie, or just you think of like any kids that are not neurotypical. Sometimes the like holiday breaks from school or the anticipation of something fun can actually be like nightmarish in the home. Yeah. The kids who thrive with like immense consistency and schedules and predictability don't tend to thrive during things like holidays or breaks from school, even if they're having fun.
Yeah.
Think of Birdie's having a great time with all the Christmas things. And also, it's really hard for her to stay regulated during any sort of month where things are just off.
It's hard for me to stay regulated. Like, I mean, to be fair, like it's hard when those things are off. I don't think it's just necessarily those who are not neurotypical. I think it can be just overwhelming when you don't know where to put everything.
And there's like so many additions of things, of like invitations to cookie decorating parties and cookie exchanges and kids like pageants and programs and all these things that are sweet and meant to celebrate the birth of Jesus can end up adding up to being way too much.
The birth of stress.
Yes.
Well, Christmas comes right in the midst of real life, so like my story, I'm just flooded with nothing but wonderful memories. But I was just yesterday, Diane and I were walking our dog Tripper in the dark, ran into a neighbor, and she just opened up that a year ago, so this Christmas, that her husband left her. And she said, well, I'm not crying every day. So she's going to go into this Christmas wanting to be around her kids, navigating that. And then, our friend Steve Marshman, who lost his wife not too long ago, is heading into a Christmas without his bride of many years. So people come into this stress, they come into a time of loss, and yet kids are celebrating right in front of them, just a plethora of emotions floating around. And I think that's why, we need to talk about how to have peace in the midst of whatever it is. So I think people listening, some of them are going to walk into situations like that, or into some family brokenness, or into great celebrations.
Yes. And on top of that, we come into it with unrealistic expectations of ourselves.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So my mom was just the ultimate homemaker, made the best cookies. I can follow the exact same recipe she did. And I promise you, mine do not turn out as well as hers do.
More butter and sugar.
And I kind of went into the holidays thinking, well, this is how to love my family. I have to do all the things that my mom did on top of who I am and my contribution. I think we end up being, I'll speak for myself, I often end up being stressed out because I'm actually trying to do more than my now grown family really needs from me, and trying to make it the perfect Christmas. But in the meantime, I'm becoming more and more frazzled, or what do you use? The neuro term of
dysregulated,
activated, or just, I'm just basically huffing and puffing because I made too many cookies, or I did too many soups, or whatever. And just, I bring it on myself personally.
Well, it's interesting because everyone kind of goes into those moments differently. And before, I think naming things are helpful. And I would have not been able to name before that in in situations like I get overstimulated. I didn't have like language for that. So I would get really agitated and really irritable. But I mean, I love everybody. I love what's happening. I love the whole thing, but I didn't have language to understand, like, I'm completely overstimulated. Therefore, I'm snappy, or I'm short, or I'm rude, and I'm not meaning to be, but even without knowing what's going on, that can come out. And you're like, why am I so frustrated about? So anyway, I think even just learning what are some of those trigger points for you. And I think it's important to highlight that you're not going to like solve this problem, but I think we can move through it with a graciousness and an openness and a kindness. And even just to say, I got to step out for a minute. I'm kind of feeling overwhelmed, but I love you. You're great. I think even just learning what your own needs are in that space, not in a selfish, you eject and like, I need 4 hours of alone time right now in the middle of the day. We have members of the family like that, but you know what I mean? Like, I think within reason, take some time to step away if you can.
And so going into it, I found this verse in Psalm 26 a couple of days ago. Psalm 26, 2 and 3 reminds us, we often quote Psalm 139, 22 and 23. This is really similar. And I found myself praying this for myself. Examine me, O Lord, and try me. Test my mind and my heart. For your loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth. The two things that really stuck out to me is that self-awareness. You're asking God to make you aware of what you're bringing into the celebrations, or if you're seeing your family of origin, what you're bringing into relationship with your siblings, or just asking God to really examine my mind and my heart, because we have a tendency to hide from the reality of our reactiveness and the responsibility we have. And then keeping his loving kindness before our eyes just is almost to me like just soaking his loving kindness in. If any time we need to really cultivate a rich, quiet time in the morning or sometime during the day in the scriptures, it's now. Because otherwise we're going to lose sight of his loving kindness towards us. And that's the most real thing about our lives.
Absolutely. Well, I think there's a lot we can highlight the problem all day, because you have family of origin issues, you have all the family dynamics. Some people have just very loose or limited relationship with family members. Then all of a sudden you are seeing each other for the first time in a year. And you're like, I didn't even know I had stuff I didn't deal with, right? And so we're just trying to name, I know there's a plethora of other things. I think about families that, blended families. That's a whole other dynamic of stresses in real time of just not only family of origin, but current family moment and kids and dynamics and shared time and space. And so wherever you're at and wherever your story aligns with this moment, I just want to what we want to do is just invite you that you can be a person who not only receives peace, and that's a big one, but gives peace. Is not just a peacekeeper, but a peacemaker. And how do we move into the holiday season making peace? And again, not perfectly. Be kind to yourself. It's not something we can all master in a moment. But let's just walk through that. Let's walk through that acronym. I think it's very easy to remember. These are 5 things. But first, the first P we want to talk about is presence. How do we have presence with those that we're around and being fully attentive and emotionally available to people? How do we do that? What does that look like? And I just want to say this really quick, why it matters, because it calms all of those things inside of us. When you're calm, it helps other people be really calm. I know I find this so much with my own kids. When I'm calm and regulated, they're calm and regulated. But that means I have to get calm and regulated. And sometimes that's really hard. So
sometimes that's the greatest challenge.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So give us let's just take a second. What are some thoughts on presence? How can we be present with those? How do we actually live into that practically, not just ethereal, but practically?
Well, leave your phones in the front entry or in your purse, or better yet, at home.
Yes.
If you're going to a family gathering. So I just downloaded Joey's app.
Yes, Reclaim Well.
Yes. I love it already. Because I'll say I'm not going to check out on my phone, but then I do.
Yes.
And then I get distracted, and I had put in like 2 hours, what you can put in how long you don't want your phone.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you put it on its face so you can't see it, and nothing comes through, and you can't really reach for it. It was amazing.
So I have to say this really quick. What you don't know, which is really funny, I don't think you actually know this. Next week, we'll release this. The week after this is going to be an interview with Joey.
Oh, good.
Talking about how effective and powerful Reclaim Well is as an app and how helpful it is in what they're doing. And for Advent, and this is just, this is a freebie, but our friend Justin Early is actually released a whole Advent series through that app specifically.
I saw that.
And then for the new year, this is a little tease, but you'll hear about it next year. For the first 31 days of January, we're partnering with them to do a 31-day challenge with sowing a hidden seed to pray for your kids every day. But we're doing it through the app. So you'll hear more about that.
Yes.
If you're listening to this past the new year, you'll already have had this information. But couldn't agree more. It's a very helpful tool to just do the thing we're trying to do.
Yeah, it goes one step beyond just telling yourself you're not going to look at your phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
It actually makes you stay with that conviction.
Yes.
It just puts that extra barrier so that you don't hear
present,
the ding. You don't, you can't pick it up for 2 hours.
I couldn't, I really actually think, we can talk a lot about this and we're going to move on to the next one in a moment, but I think probably for most of us, if we're being honest, just by doing that one act, you are going to save a lot of just generalized distraction.
Yep.
And what's so funny about this, I didn't even know you downloaded that. So this wasn't like a planned plug, which I love even more because of the organic nature of I didn't even know you downloaded the app. And it's a completely free app, which is
so
great
what's it called again?
Reclaim Well.
Reclaim. Okay.
Yeah, Reclaim Well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a free app. We'll put the link in the show notes. You can click it and download it right now. But all that said, I think that one act will be huge for people. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's more for sure. But Phil,
Well, but what's interesting about our devices is that there's the like physical presence that it snaps us out of when we're actually holding it, looking at it, not looking at the eyes of our kids or whoever's trying to talk to us. But then there's, even if it's not in your hand and you're not doing something on it, it takes up mental presence and mental space.
Yep.
And so there is something about it being shut off or locked out. Sorry, Joey, I use the brick, not Reclaim Well, but I feel like now I need to try
sweetheart, how could
Reclaim Well.
We are not sponsored
I like the
by
brick
either.
because I have to actually physically go somewhere to unbrick the phone. You have to
Yes,
like consciously do a physical act to unlock your phone. Anyway, I think there is something really unique about our devices specifically that snap us out of both the physical and the emotional, mental presence.
I agree.
And I think if there's a number one thing we could do to help us be more present, I was thinking about, John Mark says, is it John Mark who said the greatest enemy to the spiritual life is hurry?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's quoting somebody else or
I think
if that's.
he's quoting Dallas Willard.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I feel like now we can say the greatest enemy to the spiritual life is our phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
And obviously our phones affect our hurry, make us hurry more because we're also connected. But I find it to be the biggest distraction from time in the Word, like you talked about, from other people, from it's just constantly vying for our attention.
Or even just the brain space to be thinking about the people if you're visiting or if your family is getting together. Some preparation has to happen for this peace and this presence to be real. We have to actually start thinking about them.
Yeah.
What is so-and-so's need? This child who gets dysregulated, what as an aunt or as a grandmother, what might they need from me in order to Can I be a bringer of peace and a peaceful presence to that child? And if so, how?
Yep. So yeah, Phil.
Well, I'm just thinking of what I heard you do when you were teaching, when we were all in Bloomington a week ago at our friends at Eastview Christian Church there, and you guys taught, and you talked about with your children, they're asking, do you see me?
Yeah.
And you said the funny thing about walking around the airport, everybody's looking down,
it's so
and you
fun.
said, look up. And I think presence, making eye contact with your child down on their level or with your brother or sister you're going to see. I just think, put the phone down, but then look up. I learned that from you. There you go.
Thank you. I'll say this. So Heath and Joey, founders of Reclaim Well, wonderful humans. We love them very much and know them in a deep personal level and appreciate them both. Could not recommend that more. But lastly, a fun story before we move on to engagement. I remember the first Christmas. This was probably 7-8 years. I had to have been almost 10 years ago now. And this was before the brick was out and before all these different things were out. No surprise, John Mark was already pretty hateful about the phone, which makes sense because it's very destructive. And he brings out a plastic box and then he's like, everyone has to put their phone in here. And I remember there's a couple of us, even Bex was like, I have to, some of us still have to work because it was over, it wasn't Christmas Day. It was like outside of that. Anyway, I think even though that was a little extreme, right? We're all pretty chill people, but that was a little extreme.
He's being sarcastic. We're not chill at all.
But that said, I mean, I'm teasing it, but I also think maybe that's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
Put your phone in a box and just lock it.
Well, that reminds me of our friend Todd Proctor, who pastored Rock Harbor for so many years. That's the first time I heard that. Whenever they sat down to dinner, there was a basket, and everybody's teenagers, their phones had to go in the basket. And that was like a regular thing, not just a Christmas thing.
I love it. So I just, wherever that works, whatever you need to be present, obviously just the physical distraction. So presence. Next one is engagement. And you can only engage if you're present. So I think you have to realize there's a building effect to this too. So how do we actually have engagement? And, there's a lot of different ways that you can define engagement, but maybe for Christmas holiday season, for sake of conversation and context, you're going to be having people that have probably in some way, they know you deeply and you know them, and there's probably things they might say or could say that, dare I say, trigger you, frustrate you. But leaning in with curiosity rather than reactivity is maybe how we should define it for this particular day in conversation. So how do we lean in with curiosity and keep relationship when tensions arise? Go ahead, Phil.
Well, I was just going to say, I just keep thinking of things I learned from you guys. Way back when you were on staff at Reality LA, you used to have people over all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And you would ask them questions about themselves.
Yeah.
And they would never ask you anything about yourself.
That's not just Reality
But that was
LA,
a
that's
skill that you
that's a
developed.
culture.
And I think
Yeah.
engagement is not focusing on me. Let me tell you all the stuff that I'm going through. But
Yeah.
how are you? What's going on? How are the kids? I think just showing interest in others.
Yeah.
And that's the heart of Jesus, who came
Asking
not to be
questions.
served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. That's Mark 10:45. And so I think that we go to engage, to care, to ask, to serve.
I agree with you totally. And Philippians 2 is always the go-to for this. In the New Living, it says, then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other. So in a conversation, we don't have to be disagreeing or disagreeable or counteracting or giving another perspective. Sometimes we just agree with each other. Loving one another and working together with one heart and purpose. In verse 2 and verse 3, don't be selfish. Don't live to make a good impression on others.
Ooh.
Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. That's not a self-esteem issue. It's just more the idea of more important in this moment, you, my sister, or my brother, or my mom, or my dad, my grandchildren are more important than whatever is currently on my mind.
Yes.
And so then if that's true of us, we're going to go in with a barrage of questions, and we can prepare those questions beforehand just so we don't forget. Like something happened 2 months ago and you haven't seen each other since. Bringing that up. How did that go? How did just that meeting go? How's it going at work? Not broad questions, but the kind of questions that make that person feel like for a moment they are the center of your world and your heart and your thoughts. But I don't do that naturally.
Yeah.
I don't think very many people do, but I think it is a skill that we can cultivate so that it becomes embodied in us, so that it becomes instinctive in us.
I was going to say as well, like leaders go first. So,
Yes.
I mean, truly, if you're the first person to ask the questions, if you're wanting to create that even within a dynamic of a conversation, start it. Like be the one to ask the questions first. Don't wait for someone else to be like, I hope they ask me questions about my life. What will happen naturally is when you take curiosity, and it obviously needs to be sincere, but then there's a receptivity most of the time in certain relationships. That doesn't always happen. I've experienced that in close relationships where you ask 1,000 questions and they just kind of stare at you and you're like, this is weird. Like what is
I'm
happening?
out of questions now.
Like I don't have any more questions to ask you and I guess we're going to be done now. But that can happen. That's a very real thing. But I also think that, leaders go first, ask that question and be curious. I mean, like, again, like you said, it is a learned skill. It is not something that just automatically we might not feel these things, but I do think we can live into them.
And we want to model that for our kids. Show them this is the way to do relationships.
Absolutely.
And they're watching.
Yeah. Engagement. Elizabeth, what were you saying?
I'm thinking of like extended family, adult type relationships that oftentimes we don't want to engage because there is potential for so much tension or debate. Why is it the holidays that people want to go in guns blazing, like debating these hot button topics, it seems sometimes, or avoiding anything deep because you're going to step on a landmine. And I think engagement is the opposite of that. But when we can do it with a curiosity and like open-ended questions, like I'm thinking of the power of just saying, tell me more about that. When somebody says something that you're like, there's stuff there, there's just saying, tell me more about that. I want to understand more. You can get anybody talking pretty much by saying that. That is like a perfect segue into engaging with somebody with curiosity and seeking to understand why they even believe the things that they believe or thinking the way that they are, without, like what you said, with humility, not having to share your side too and be right. I think that's just one simple thing to bring into those conversations. And with our kids, when we see them upset about something, tell me more about that. Why are you so upset about that?
Well, psychologically, people love talking about themselves.
Yes.
So, I mean, it is one of the funny reasons. Like we don't say this in the podcast community, so please don't tell anyone if you hear this. But the truth is, why is it so easy to get people on podcast interviews? Well, it's not because they're getting paid for it, because we all know that like that's not how it works. I mean, yes, there's a promotional element, but a lot of it is like people just like, you're going to ask me questions about what I'm really passionate about and what I'm putting my life's work towards. That's a really hard thing to not get excited about when someone's really curious to ask you questions, whether that's with a microphone or in person. And so psychologically, it's a really safe bet, even if you have weird uncles or aunts or people in your life, to just ask some curious questions. What are you passionate about? What do you love? Psychologically, you're going to break down tons of walls when you take curiosity, and maybe you're not, maybe they can't reciprocate. And I think hold that loosely, but you'll be surprised what happens when you start to just ask curious questions.
It's a
I've
form
learned
of
that the most quiet, shy person that you think just doesn't talk, as soon as you find the thing that they're excited about, whatever, dogs, whatever, they'll just start talking. So
That's a
I
good
think
point.
that's showing interest in finding out, tell me more, find out what, and that's showing love to a person.
It's a huge way.
Well,
I'd like to hear what you're passionate about.
Interesting that you say that, because I haven't sent we have like a family group chat, and I'm going to send a text before we're all together, giving everyone a few heads up about Birdie in that setting with everybody. She's happy to be there, excited to be there, but it's socially overwhelming for her. And I was going to give the family a heads up, like, hey, the worst thing that you could do is ask her a bunch of questions. That stresses her out like crazy because she's afraid she's not going to know how to answer. But I was going to literally tell them, if you're going to ask her questions, just ask her about horses. If you want to get her talking, ask her about horses, and then she'll relax and she'll talk to you about other things. But if you're going to ask a question, have it be about the topic she's most passionate about, or don't ask her any questions because it stresses her out.
Lately, the Amelia Bedelia books. You can ask her to tell you what's going on in the Amelia Bedelia book, and she will just
She'll
talk.
tell you.
But when she asked if she, if she could spend the night 2 nights ago, and we call it a birdie party, she brought a stuffed horse with her, Blaze.
she did. Blaze.
Get her going on horses.
Literally, her Christmas list had every toy or thing was horse related, and then at the very end, and plus a real horse, which I was like, that's not,
50 times on the
literally
list. Horse.
We're like, we know OCD. But that said, as we're talking about learning things from each other, I'll never forget, before we were even married, one leadership principle that you taught me, Phil, I remember you said this, I'll never forget it because of how you said it and how effective it is you have to learn to disagree without being disagreeable. And that is like, I think, like, that's a leadership thing. That's a relationship thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, when the crazy thing comes up that you're like, what are we talking about? How do you learn to disagree without being a disagreeable person? And I think that really that looks like graciousness. That looks like, yes, you could pull out the heavy artillery and be like, how could you bring this up here at this moment? You could do that. But it would not be gracious. It wouldn't be the right thing. So how do we disagree without being disagreeable? That's kind of the idea. So engagement, right? Presence, engagement, that's a big deal. But that leads to the next one, A, which is affection. And this is interesting to think through. Like, some of the relational dynamics we have are not affectionate. But I think there's still a way that we can show affection and generosity relationally, even if we can't, even if there's a unique dynamic. If your family never says I love you, they never give hugs, they never give a kiss on the cheek goodbye. Saying I love you while hugging them and giving them a kiss on the cheek might be the wrong move to show affection. But like, I'll just tell you the funniest thing. So growing up, like, we had these aunts and uncles. I had no clue why. So my parents grew up, lots of stories, lots of dysfunction. But my dad had 9 siblings, and primarily German heritage, so European culture to an extent. And there would just be those aunts and uncles. I had no idea. You would see them, and they would give you a hug, and they'd kiss you right on the lips, and you're like, "Oh God, what is happening? Like, what is this?" Like, and that for them was, and it was like, it wasn't just like you weren't isolated. It was just like they kissed everyone. That was the way they show affection. And I was like, I don't know what to do with all this, right? Like, but we didn't see that side of the family much, and probably because of all the kissing. I'm not sure, but like at the end of the day, I do remember, like, even though it was insanely weird, it was also like, oh, you felt like even though you haven't seen these people, there was an affection.
Yeah.
And there was a warmth of just even their physical presence, right? And so obviously this is not permission to just start kissing everybody. I think that'd be weird. But I think like, how does your family show affection? Do that, right? Like what is that? So, but other thoughts,
don't be creepy, because I also remember your Uncle Don and preparing in advance that I was going to make sure I avoided that kiss on the
Really?
lips.
He was my favorite uncle.
Oh.
Yeah, but
Uncle Dom was my
yeah,
favorite
he
uncle.
probably saw a younger woman. He's like, well, we kiss everybody.
I forgot he used to creep you out.
Yes.
I did
Looks
a
like your
memorial
childhood
service at his
wasn't
graveside.
perfect.
He
accepted
was a
Jesus.
wonderful man. He just didn't have quite the same boundaries that I was used
Oh
to.
my gosh.
That's a lot. There's a lot there we can't talk about. But yeah, so other thoughts though.
Appropriate
Yeah,
affection.
but yeah, let's
No,
talk about that.
but I think, like, I'm thinking of our kids, like pausing, slowing down enough to go seek out a hug and remind them we love them and we like them.
And being okay with the ones who don't want to hug. Like
Yeah,
Bertie does not really want to. She'll give me a hug,
Yeah.
but it's she expends a certain amount of energy to do that, and so
Yeah.
maybe at a time like Christmas, I don't even try.
I would love to give two big fat for instances. This morning, I'm up early and I'm downstairs in the living room because it's Christmas time and everything's festive and no one was awake. And I'm sitting there. Elizabeth was already at the gym because she's like that. Before the sun is up, she's already there. And
The sun was still not up when I was driving
when
home.
you got home. She's so committed. But that said, I'm like sitting there. I'm reading. I'm praying. I'm just starting the day with joy. And I don't hear Bertie get up, but she's at the top of the stairs and she can see me sitting on the couch and she just goes, "Leave." And I was like, what? But I didn't know she was there yet, but I was like, I'm looking around like, God, what do you mean? Like, am I supposed what's happening? And she's like, "Go upstairs." And I was like, who is saying that? I was like, "Bertie's that usually?" So she comes out of like the dark abyss. And then she's like, "Go upstairs." Now, here's what, before you get really angry, go, "How you guys are terrible parents." I would probably agree with you. We're not the best parents. We're trying. That's why we have a podcast to talk about how we are failing and how we can help. But that said, she was literally like, if Bertie does not love any sort of interaction, she doesn't even love to see people. If she can avoid seeing a human for the first 30 to 40 minutes, that's a big win for her. She just, all of that it brings up in her, she doesn't have words for it. So it comes out like, "Leave." So she's coming down.
Or growling.
Yeah,
Like a
growling.
lion.
She growls. But then she comes downstairs and like, I'm going through all the behavioral therapist stuff. Like, okay, like I have to draw back, like this is my space too. She can't just eject everybody. So I want to honor what she needs, but I also am like, she can't just think that you can come downstairs and just tell anybody that you have to do what you say because you don't like it, right? Like there's a tension there. So I just said, "Good morning, Bertie. I know you don't want to talk, but I'm going to leave when I'm ready. I'm not ready to leave yet, but you're welcome to do anything. I won't talk to you, just so you know. But I love you. I'm so good morning." Yeah. She's like, she just growls. And then she goes to have breakfast. And I eventually, just to honor her, I didn't want to, but just to honor her, I like after 10 minutes, I went upstairs. That's like one example. Like if I was to be like, "Give me a hug, sweetie, come sit on," like she would have,
That
it
would
would have
not be
just
loving her
destroyed her.
Yeah.
And I know, like that is I think a good example for us because my natural response is what Sloan does in the morning. She wakes up and she's like, "Good morning, Dad," and she sits in my lap and she kisses me and hugs me. She's like, "How was your sleep?" Like she's just, we're cut from the same cloth. Her and I, we're just like, oh, we're joyful morning people. What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing because also this morning,
Oh, this is
Duke has every third day he has a late start, so he gets to sleep in a little bit more.
affection. Yeah.
And he got up. He doesn't sleep in that much, but he was getting up at 8 when we were all getting out of the house because it was co-op day for the girls. So we're all getting out of the house and I'm needing to make another cup of coffee to bring with me. And he's like just emerging from his room
Oh my gosh.
to make coffee. And he just has this like moment where he just freezes in the kitchen. And then I just see him leaning up against the wall, plugging his ears.
He was? I missed
Because
this.
he like couldn't fathom talking to anybody or the noise level as we're all like scurrying
Yes.
to get your shoes
Yeah,
on, get your
yeah,
jacket on. We gotta go. It's chapel
We do
day.
have
we gotta.
like two that are like her and two like me in that
I want to
space.
encourage you. I'm so sorry that
That's fine.
Bertie said leave,
Oh,
but I want you
All
to
right.
know
It's
that
pretty
in
good.
our house where she spent the other night, she didn't do that
No,
at all.
she won't
She
do
did
it.
not get up and say leave.
No,
she was
No.
delightful.
But remember, so
Yes.
we're a good match. I am.
You can't
I
hear
take
anything.
at least 2 hours in the morning before what we call plugging in, put my cochlear device on. So I get up to not only beautiful dark and nobody else, but total silence.
Yeah.
And it is
It's great.
blissful.
Yes.
And so Birdie gets up maybe about 6:30 or something.
Yeah, that's her normal
I've
time.
had I'm just emerging from this really good time. And she comes out and she doesn't want me to talk or plug in. And I don't want to talk or plug in.
Absolutely.
So she plops herself on the chair, and then it's a swivel chair. So she
away
turns her
from you.
back to me. And it's like, oh, yes, she's my people.
You're like, we're in the same room. We love each other, but we are not
She
in
walks
our
into
looking
my
at each
office
other.
and just kind of looks at me briefly and goes straight to Trooper, to our
Trooper,
dog.
to the
And starts
dog.
loving on
Same,
Trooper.
same thing with Django. So
We actually made her a closet underneath the stairs.
Yes.
I worked on it this week.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
when I got home from the gym,
she was there.
I told her she needed to go take a shower, and she goes, "No, I need to go to the closet." I said, okay, you get
we
5
send our
minutes
kids
in
to a
the
special
closet.
class. But that said, though, I would just think affection is super important,
Yeah.
and do it in your family's terms. And lastly, though, this is really important. The details of like roughhousing with your kids and like playing with them and the physical affection that comes, like as a parent, the research is like the more you do that, the healthier relationships you have with them, the more they're connected in every single way. I say that because it's easy to think as your kids get older, like my son is like, he's like shaped and acts and walks through the world like a man. He's 16 and a half, but he's
Huge.
still, he's a man. I still hug him goodnight. I still like, I'll mess with him and I'll I'll hug him, and because he's taller than me, he'll call me a short king, and that annoys me for sure. But like I'll hug him and I'll kiss him on the neck and I'll just be like, hey, and he's like, oh, Dad, and he's like, it's so funny because he like hates it and he's also like he laughs the whole time, and I think again like affection is so important as a parent, even as your kids get older. Hug your kids, wrestle with your kids, be with them. Like it's a huge deal. Don't wrestle with your adult kids. That's weird. Like I don't think they want to wrestle adult parents and adult kids. But I think really though, especially when they're in your home, be with them.
Yeah.
Right before we move on to the next two, anything else?
I love that Duke, he's more introverted. At church, he'll usually come up and give me a hug.
Yeah.
Always.
Right in the
He's
middle
very
of
affectionate.
a couple hundred people, It's it's the affection that you've showed him, he's now showing to others. That should encourage you.
Yeah.
You know what's
Thank you.
interesting though? He was not an affectionate little boy.
Okay.
He would never choose a hug or
Okay.
he wouldn't reject it like Birdie does, but he was not cuddly in any stretch of the imagination. And as he's gotten older, he's become much more affectionate. And you can just see that he needs it. He needs
does.
that like slow
We all
down
do.
moment. Yeah.
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 And sometimes affection is just when you're in a conversation with somebody and they just shared something close to their heart and you just put your hand on their arm.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is good. Or
affection.
you grab their hand. Or my dad was not an overtly affectionate man, but he was a very beautifully, quietly affectionate man. And remember, Elizabeth, how he liked to hold hands.
Yes.
And then he would just every once in a while give you just a little squeeze. And it was almost like from him, it sounded like shouting, I'm with you. I'm present with you. I'm attentive to you.
Wow.
You matter
Really
to me.
cool.
So, and then also some people are really good at being affectionate with words. I think, Phil, you're so good at this. He's affectionate with his words, and it just immediately, I feel sometimes in times of tense moments that I don't even know that I'm kind of growing tense. His affectionate words and nicknames and things like that, not mocking, but honestly good affectionate. It is a beautiful way to show affection.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
And
it.
that I can't remember the details of that study I read on words like that and what they do to the brain. But but I do remember the brain literally releases oxytocin.
Yes.
Like we have a full body nervous system response
Yes.
when somebody is warm and affectionate
Yes.
and encouraging and blessing with their words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one, wait, where are we
We
at?
just did A.
We
Affection.
just did
A.
it.
We're
Yeah.
C.
I can't spell.
Compassion,
C, compassion
and care.
I love
compassion
this
and
one.
care. So
Yeah.
what does this look like? Let's talk about what does compassion and care look like around the holiday season?
I think this is that idea of like responding to somebody's inner experience rather than just judging their outward behavior, but really like tending to their inner experience. So I think of compassion of like, if you know the holidays are hard for somebody, and thinking of your neighbor who this marks the year of divorce, like slowing down enough to be compassionate about her experience and what she's feeling on the inside.
Yeah.
Like, I think of like the longer we've worked through just grief as a family and like live in grief a lot of the time of like, I don't know, it makes you more aware of tending to what somebody might be actually experiencing on the inside, but not showing fully.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because all of us carry so much that we're not showing others. And so if we can be people that go around trying to create space for people to be able to feel those deep things and it's okay and it's safe, I think that's what being a compassionate person actually looks like. Not just empathy, but like really compassion. And I love that this also says care.
I heard, I don't know if it was when I was teaching on compassion once, but I heard one biblical definition of compassion, which really helps me, is your pain in my heart.
Yeah.
So it's like, I see you're hurting. Like when we ran into this neighbor, we didn't just say, oh, well, hope you have a good Christmas. You know, it was like, we are so sorry.
Yeah.
We had no idea. And then she started talking about, she does not sure what's going to happen at Christmas she wants to be with her kids, but now they're not together, you know. Yeah. So I think that's what you're talking about is feeling someone else's pain. Showing compassion is actually carrying that with them and doing what you can to help them carry that burden.
And maybe just, you know, I know we have this written down, but one of the practices I think could be really helpful is, and I think the reason I'm sharing this is because I really think this is so helpful with every single person that we interact with when there's a negative interaction. Asking the question, instead of what's wrong with them, ask what might they be carrying right now?
Yeah.
And I mean, I cannot tell you how many times we use that as an example with our own kids and our family. And like most of the time, if they're like, this kid was really mean and this kid did this at school. And it's, you know, we try to help create that, like, well, I wonder what their life is like at home. I wonder what their parents are like. I wonder what their situation's like. And then your kids will actually, this happened the other day. There was a kid and something happened and it wasn't major, but our kids were saying, well, yeah. And they offered like, well, this person was adopted more recently and there was this and this and this. And you go, and so then you can go, oh, well, could you imagine what that must feel like? Even if they have a really good situation they've moved into, or the family they've been adopted into is really great. Could you imagine like if for different circumstances that you were in a different family, you know, like, so trying to create empathy, well, which is secret, the last one, but compassion and care. How do you create that compassion with that? So any other thoughts before the last one?
No, but I love that one. I think that's so important. We just go in and we criticize or we judge.
Yeah.
And even, or, you know, sometimes in my extended family, I would go in and hear somebody criticize or judge and kind of freeze inside because I know this person too that they're talking about. And redirecting some of that so that we're actually helping each other to do this, you know, helping to see that must be really hard for them. Or let's give them some space to just work through this. And be a safe place. We can turn the gossipers, judgers, criticizers with a kind word. You don't have to just be harsh and mean, but with a kind word, just help others to imagine that this is a really rough time in their life and we want to be there for them.
Yes.
Instead of judge them.
And lastly, E, empathy, feeling with someone, not fixing for them. And empathy's, I mean, don't share too much, Elizabeth, but empathy is a learned skill for some of us, myself included. And like some of us don't naturally have empathy. And I think that that's an important thing to any relationship, obviously. But I mean, I know this firsthand. I think every man that is married to a woman who presents a very tangible problem with a very tangible solution what do we mostly do? Well, just do this. We could fix this problem that you're sharing with me. And 95 or 100% of the time, they're like, we just want you to listen and be with us and like help me know, like say with me, this is hard, and that's a really fine line sometimes. And for some, that's really natural, and you're a bleeding heart, and in the best way, you're constantly able to hold that with other people. And then others, it's a very learned experience. But let's talk about this, and then Phil, I know you have one closing thought.
Well, I read actually this morning, 2 Corinthians 1, it says, "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort." So that's who he is to us, who comforts us in all our troubles. And I love this, so that we can comfort those in any trouble. So it's not that the troubles have to be the same.
Right.
Just trouble, our troubles, and then anybody else in their troubles, with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. And that idea of you saying, like, it doesn't come as naturally to you. I think it's, we talk about this all the time. You can't pass on what you don't possess. You can't be something to somebody that you have not experienced or received from God. And so even asking if that maybe is not, there are some people who they're just, I think of my friend Nicole, who's just a bleeding heart, who cries at anybody else's pain instantly. Well, she's moved to compassion and to empathy very easily. But I think of maybe if that's not, maybe you're more logical, or maybe you grew up in a really judgmental family or whatever, and that's not easily accessible to you, or maybe you haven't really let yourself feel your own pain. It can be much harder to be compassionate and empathetic. But just this idea of even asking God, like, show me how you've comforted me, because I know you have. And would you just help me transfer some of that to those I'm around? Like, and I love how scripture is, we're discovering these quote unquote new things in neuroscience. And then we read scripture and we're like, oh, that's what that means. That whole idea of like something being embodied and then us being able to pass it on to other people. It's exactly what this verse is talking about. We actually embody the compassionate care of Christ, and then we can, then out of that, we can comfort other people.
Yeah.
I love that.
Peace, Peace. I can spell. Take this into the holiday. Phil, why don't you, as we close today, why don't you just share final thought? You shared this right before we started, and I think this is the best way to end it. So,
well, yeah, I think Elizabeth just set it up with comfort. So we're able to comfort others because we've been comforted by God. And so I think that you can't pass on what you don't possess. We teach that when it comes to raising kids. But I think, so that's true of comfort. It's also true of peace. So peace isn't, as a follower of Jesus, peace isn't something that we beg for, strain for. I'm going to be with all my family. I just need to be a person of peace. It's not something that we strive for or beg for. It's something that we can experience from God, and then we're able to give it to others. And, when I was listening to John Mark preach last spring, I think it was, it's great, for Diane and I to now have our kids, you guys, Brooke and Elizabeth, teaching us things. And I'm listening to John Mark teach on Colossians 3:15, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts and be thankful, to which you're called to be thankful. So the rule is actually, in Greek, it's arbiter or umpire. Like, an umpire says, safe, you're out, strike. Let the peace of Christ rule in your heart. But what I didn't know when Jamark was teaching is that in the original language of the New Testament, the word let is a passive command. It's something you let happen to you. Like your little kid comes to you with a splinter and it's hurting, and when you let mommy take it out, don't touch it. But you have to let your mom take the splinter out, or you roll up the shutters and let the light come in. So I think it's a choice we make to let the peace of Christ umpire in our hearts and be thankful, and then we can pass this on. And when you think about it, Jesus said in John 14, my peace I give to you. So he gives us the peace, and then we can turn around and give it to others. And, it is Christmas. Isaiah 9, we're going to be in Christmas Eve services. They're all going to quote Isaiah 9:6, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. He is the Prince of Peace. So I think we just let him, it's another way of saying, abide in me and you shall bear much fruit. And lastly, just to quote Diane and my favorite person, Amy Carmichael, who's been with Jesus for a long time. I can't wait to meet her. But she has this prayer that I pray now when you and I go to teach a lot. I have a psalm I pray through, but she said this: love through me, love of God. Shine through me, joy of God. Speak through me, word of God. And flow through me, peace of God.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Amen. And I think we'll put that prayer in the show notes and copy and paste that. Put that as a screensaver on your phone that you won't be looking at. You won't be looking at it because it's going to be in a box somewhere. But when you pick up that phone, have that as the screensaver, right? Have that as the prayer. It's not only a breath prayer to memorize, but like keep that on your screensaver so that you can literally pray that in every time you see it. I mean, statistics say you'll see your phone 700 times or pick it up that many, whatever the number is. But wherever you are at, wherever you're listening to this, we'll say it all together. Merry Christmas. 1, 2, 3.
Merry
Christmas.